Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 114 of the Co-op Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Bailey Jr., and I'm joined by Mr. Gary A. Swaby. How's it going, Gary?
Yeah, what's good, people?
Mr. Jakejames Lugo. How's it going, Jake?
I'm doing great, man. How you been? Hope you're doing good.
Yes, everything is excellent. And Mr. Charles Singletary. How's it going, Charles?
It's going well. Hello, everyone.
Yes. So we have quite a bit of topics we're going to jump into today, but before we do any of that, let's tell everybody what we have been playing. How about you go first, Gary?
Oh man, it's quite hard to keep track of what I've been playing recently because there's been so many games in this quarter one. I definitely been playing the game that everyone's been playing this week, Mortal Kombat X. I'm sure you guys are going to give thorough impressions on it too, so I'll just give a basic summary of my thoughts. I really like the game, definitely the best fighting game released for this gen so far. The story mode was real short, and I know some people have criticisms about that, about it being so short, but me personally, I didn't mind the length of the game because, after all, it's a fighting game, and I felt like the last game was too lengthy, to be honest. Because with a fighting game, it's easy to get not bored, but like you can get tired of it after a while, just because it's the same thing over and over again. Especially if you're fighting the computer, if you're fighting friends and stuff, that's different. But when you're fighting just the computer over and over again, it can get a little repetitive. So I didn't mind the length of the story. And, once I got the story out the way, it gave me time to focus on other things like learning combos and stuff for the characters that I wanted to use. So, yeah, overall, I'm enjoying it. It's sad that I can't play with a lot of you guys because of the region lock. But, yeah, I'm enjoying the game. Um, what else have I been playing? I didn't start Type Zero yet. I definitely need to start that. I've been playing Battlefield Hardline. I played some last night with Mr. Torrance Davis. That was on PC. Still loving that game. Played some Bloodborne. Oh, and I've been playing a hell of a lot of Dragon Ball Xenoverse because they released another DLC pack for that. Which adds the Shadow Dragons from Dragon Ball GT and stuff. So I've been playing the hell out of that too. And I'm sure I'm missing out some stuff, but I'm going to leave it there because, those are the main games. So yeah, that's it.
Sounds good. I know I'm going to have something to say about Mortal Kombat, but I'm going to go last. So how about you, Mr. Jakejames Lugo? What have you been playing?
I've been a real busy bug. I also been playing Mortal Kombat X. I did the review for it and still playing it afterwards. Really fun, playing with friends online. A lot of meat, a lot of unlockables to get to in the single player campaign as well as also the crypt. A lot of fun stuff in there. I've also been playing another game I can't talk about, but very soon I'll be able to give some impressions about, probably next week. Something to look forward to. And also I've been doing a project with Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin, where that game is hard as balls. Again, it's been taking up a lot of my time, just dealing with the game, just playing through a lot of the tough sections and trying to follow a bunch of guides that are on there. But even with that, the game is a ridiculous challenge, especially depending on if you play melee or ranged magic and such. But I've been playing around with that. Also got to mess with the new DLC for Super Smash Bros. I got to write up an impressions of Mewtwo and actually mess around with that character. If you guys don't remember, he was a free DLC offered for everybody now if you registered your Smash Bros. Game for both Wii U and Nintendo 3DS on the eShop and Club Nintendo, and you got that as a free download. You'll still be able to download Mewtwo just as a separate download that you could buy on April 28th, I believe it is. And I've just been messing with that, playing online, going through the single-player modes on Smash Brothers, getting the trophies and such. One thing I will say, and I mentioned it in my impressions, there is no custom moveset for Mewtwo. I don't know why Nintendo decided to do that. I feels a little bit incomplete because every other character on the roster has a custom moveset, So it just feels a little out of place that they would do that. Hopefully in the next update, especially when Lucas comes out down the line, we'll be able to get custom movesets for the DLC characters, as well as any of the other future DLC characters down the line, because I know some news dropped about that in relation to the update. But that's what I've been playing. I've been messing around with those games a lot.
Sounds good. How about you, Mr. Charles Singletary?
I've been playing a lot of Pillars of Eternity. I've been playing a lot of Elite Dangerous. A little bit of Toxic, which is a first-person PC arena shooter. And just kind of scattered games all over the place. I've been jumping through Steam and trying out a bunch of different things and trying out a bunch of in-development indie titles and stuff like that. But the main thing I'm going to be playing right now is The Witcher 2, which after we finish doing the co-op, I'll be streaming that for the rest of the day because I haven't finished it. And, we only have so much time before Witcher 3 comes out. So I'm going to try to finish it before the 10th. It's going to be a tough one, but because I still got to do Pillars of Eternity, which is taking up a lot of my time, and I love it. But we'll see if I'll be able to finish it.
Yeah, that's a good idea for for everyone, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to buy The Witcher 3 just because how can you deny such an awesome game? But I know a lot of people didn't actually get to play the second game, so I do recommend people either watch Charles's stream or go back and play the game, even if you don't beat it. Just familiarize yourself with the world and the setting and everything, because it's a real deep game.
Oh yeah, big time.
Yep.
Agree 100%. I'll definitely be checking out that stream after this show. As for what I've been playing, just like Gary and JJ, I've been playing Mortal Kombat X. I do agree that it's a great game. The game looks phenomenal. I mean, the campaign looks great. It looks a lot better than when I just saw the streams online and the coverage from different websites and so on and so forth. But the game looks awesome. My only real complaint about the game, well, there's a few complaints. I do agree that the story is too short when compared to the last Mortal Kombat game, because they allowed you to also play as the villains as well. This game, you mostly play as the heroes. And while that's fine and dandy, it would have been good to play from both sides. I understand, though, the length is not really a big deal to some, but to me, I just think it could have been a little bit more to it. The other issue I have is, I know they have the combat pack coming out. Tanya is one of the characters that they introduced that is going to be a part of that, but she is also in the story. I got a little bit of an issue with that because I wanted it to be all new characters. Now, of course, Tremor is in it, but then the other two are Freddy and Predator. These characters don't really have anything to do with Mortal Kombat. That's just like a little fun novelty thing. But another character, Rain, is in the story, is not in this DLC. So that leads me to believe that there will be another character that will be announced, because I know that people who have it on PC have been creating mods, and they have Rain, Baraka, and I believe another character or two that they've already made playable. So, I mean, we'll see. But again, other than that, it's a very fun game. There's definitely a lot of content to get through as far as that's concerned. But I'm pretty much happy overall with everything, the controls, the graphics, everything. So it's definitely something that I will recommend any fighting game fan who wants something more, a little bit more than what they would expect. They definitely should check it out.
Yo, can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Which factions did you guys join?
White Lotus. White Lotus. I know a lot of people are going with Lin Kuei right now, and I really think it's because people think that Scorpion's with the Lin Kuei. They didn't put Shin Ryu as one of the factions, which it kind of leaves a lot of room out in the open for like their complete edition whenever they decide to do that, where they could have more factions. That I think would be pretty sweet. But everybody pretty much at this point is either going with Lin Kuei or a couple other people going White Lotus.
Yeah, and for that reason, I went with Black Dragon, because I see that Black Dragon is like the second lowest faction or something. So I want to put in work for the team and help them build. Like I feel like I want to be the underdog instead of just joining what everyone else is joining.
The lowest one I think is Special Forces.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're the lowest. What
Uh,
about you, Rich?
yeah, I was gonna say Lin Kuei, right? That's the one that Sub-Zero's in.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah.
isn't Sub-Zero in the
Yeah.
other one? I
They,
can't remember.
whichever one, the one that Sub-Zero in is the one that has the
that's
most.
the Lin Kuei. That's the Sub-Zero's faction. The Shiryu is the one that Scorpion owns. That's he's the
Okay, I
master.
got you.
Oh, okay.
That one is not a faction in this game, which again I'm surprised because Ed Boon's favorite character is Scorpion.
Well, it maybe. Well, I was gonna say maybe this will be some additional content later, some more DLC. I don't know if they're gonna really do that. I know characters more than likely. I'm not sure about the factions though. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I haven't really tried the faction battles yet. I don't know if you guys had the little boss.
I did. I had one with Melina as the boss invader. Like
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
the boss battles, they're okay. If anything, for the one that I got, the Molina that I had to fight had super armor, so you would have to land at least 5 or 6 hits before you could actually start taking off damage. And then the computer's AI is like jacked up all the way, so it's very hard, for people that are just again get caught by surprise easily and such. Hopefully, there's other variations that they do with the invaders, like different types of abilities and such that make it much more different than just like give them super armor and then just make them ridiculously hard.
Yeah, I mean, what I don't like about the faction systems, it seems pretty static. Like, it's really impossible for Black Dragon or Special Forces to rise to the top right now. It just seems like they're gonna stay at the bottom kind of thing. But
well,
I'm hoping they add a lot of stuff that can, help change the tide a little bit.
one quick thing I want to say about that, and then we'll jump to the next topic. Actually, they do have trophies that reward you from switching factions. So I do believe that you will see people switching factions to get those trophies, and that
That'll
will
be
probably.
tough, though. That'll be tough because in order to level those up, you have to get the factions all the way to 50 in order to get that trophy, and just some of the things that you have to do in order to get experience like that, besides going through the story or playing the towers or the living towers for that matter, you have to play faction battles. And one of the things that I said in my review was that it's a little bit annoying when you try to go into a faction battle, like especially a team battle, and you have even teams like 4-on-4 and such, but the game will still make you wait and won't do a countdown until there's a full 5-on-5 faction battle. So you'll be sitting there for like half an hour
Not
to
good.
deal with that, which is a little bit annoying.
That's not good. So yeah. Well, I have to get into that because I tried to access that. Of course, obviously, the first day the game was out, I actually completed it the first day. That goes to show you how short the story mode is. But I wasn't able to. I guess that wasn't up and running at that particular time. But yeah, I'll check it out. But that doesn't sound good at all. We'll see. Well, want to jump right into the topics because we got quite a bit of things to go over. There was a lot of developments that happened this week. So the very first topic, though, was a brief one. I know that Microsoft has finally confirmed that Phil Harrison has left the company. I just wanted to know if you guys had any very quick thoughts on that particular thing and why it took them this long to confirm this news. Whoever wants to go first.
What did he actually do at Microsoft?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I thought that he was working. I mean, his particular role, I believe, was he was the leader of the European Xbox team. You being from Europe yourself, I think you know the Xbox has not been doing too well over there. I mean, I don't know if for sure. I just know they keep dropping the price, so that tells me that they're trying to sell it. I don't know if they're having any success, but yeah, that's what his main role was over there.
Yeah, the console's been discounted to hell over here. Like, there's all kinds of great deals for the console, and there has been for a long time. Like before price drops and all that, there was like crazy deals for the console. So I guess it's not selling that well over here. But as far as Phil Harrison, I haven't really heard or seen him do anything significant for Microsoft Europe. So, I mean, I guess this makes sense. Maybe he wants to shift his focus a little bit or something. I don't know. Are there any more details as to why he left?
There was no details. Unless he wants to pursue other ventures outside of what Microsoft has to offer. It's just it's not really, you don't really know if he's going to still be a part of the industry or not. It's just one of those things where you have to wait and see if he does get involved with something else. But if I could say something very briefly about this, yeah, I know that I believe Phil Harrison was on board the same time that Don Matrick was there, and I know that when Don Matrick left, quite a few other people left. They wanted to have a, after what Microsoft did when they launched, they had so many issues with the launch. I guess they wanted to change up the dynamic. That's why they had Phil Spencer take over, and I guess they wanted to get rid of whatever was left over that wasn't really successful for them, or was a bit tainted because of the way that they were perceived beforehand. So I just think that this was just another piece that they wanted to get rid of, but I'm not really 100% certain. That's just my thoughts on the subject, but does anyone else have anything they want to add?
No, I can't really add too much simply because I don't know what his role was other than, covering the European side. I saw an interesting comment where someone said that they always felt that Microsoft was more interested in his PlayStation or his Sony knowledge rather than his actual talents or whatever. So that's an interesting perspective on that particular thing. But I don't know. I wish him well. Maybe we'll see him pop up somewhere. Maybe jump on with an indie group or something like that, because a lot of people seem to be doing that, moving from AAA to indie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I'm of the same thing. I mean, I'm not super well versed in the Xbox or Microsoft ecosystem like that, so I really don't know much about him. But hey, it whatever works, for Microsoft. They seem to be doing a lot of changes, hopefully for their benefit. A lot of different stuff that they're really kind of trying to adapt and trying to really see what works and really see what will be for the best interest of their fans, like their loyal fans, the ones that have stuck with them for the longest time. So maybe this is part of a bigger plan.
Yes. Well, we'll see sooner rather than later. But yeah, we do wish him well. And yeah, we'll just see what comes from all of this. So the next topic was a major development. Of course, we already know. EA and DICE finally revealed Star Wars Battlefront. They had an event that took place the other day, the Star Wars Celebration event, and they showed a gameplay trailer. Well, they said gameplay trailer. Well, we're not going to get into whether that was gameplay or footage. Some stuff was gameplay. I don't know if all of that was gameplay, obviously. It's the cinematic stuff. But
that was not gameplay. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah. I mean, I figure, yeah. We'll see. To be determined. But I just want to say this, because I know for a fact, I know Gary knows better than me. DICE had some issues with Battlefield. Now, Battlefield Hardline, I know they was a little bit involved in that, but from my understanding, Visceral had, they had their name on that more prominently. But the question I have to ask is now, because the Star Wars game is coming out, do we think that this is a game that will repair their image? Because I know a lot of people are still mad because Battlefield had so many issues when it launched. It wasn't working properly. But do we think this is a game that can repair their image, that everybody should be excited for, or should we just keep our expectations grounded until we see if it actually works on day one?
It's a double-edged sword, to be honest with you. I mean, let's be real. They've really rubbed people the wrong way, between Battlefield 4 and Battlefield Hardline. If anything, this really kind of, makes everybody look at them with a really, really harsh eye, because a lot of people, including myself, have said, I don't want to see some of the things like they did with the DLC content and just the different pricing models of what went down with Battlefield 4 and Battlefield Hardline for Battlefront. And it looks like they're going to be doing that anyway, because that's the business model that they're going to be following. At the same time, a lot of people are going to be very wary of them for the launch, which, again, they haven't had a good track record with the last couple of games. And if anything, if it does end up being, hypothetically, if it ends up being a bad launch or a really less than stellar launch for Battlefront, people are going to be that much more louder about it because it's Star Wars. Because this is a game that people have been begging for a long time, ever since LucasArts was still around. Like that, so they're really putting themselves and stacking the deck up against them. Now, hopefully, they do a great job. From what I've seen, it looks like they're going to be doing a great job. Because that footage, what they showed, the CG trailer, looks awesome. I'm hoping, obviously, the gameplay is somewhat close to that, even though I doubt it's going to hit that benchmark. but they have a lot of stuff like stacked up against them. They better deliver.
Okay, couple things. Well, for one, like though they already said it wasn't gameplay because of the cinematic part, but that was in-game assets that ran that trailer. So as far as it reaching that benchmark, I don't think we have to be worried about that. And then another thing is, DICE made that mistake, the big mistake with Battlefield 4. I feel like the stuff they did with Hardline, not that much of a big deal. That's more of us having to come to grips with how DLC, microtransactions, and blah blah blah, all of that's changing and how everybody's going to implement it. We're gonna have to get over that part. I mean, for one, they're already giving free DLC to everyone for that part that bridges the gap between the last Star Wars, the last Star Wars movie and the new one, which is cool. And a big reason, first off, I hate what happened with Battlefield 4, but I haven't entirely lost faith in DICE, and I don't think that many people have. And regardless, that's going to be a very small amount of people compared to the amount of people that have been waiting for Star Wars Battlefront. And also, because this is that's November and the movie comes out in December. The heads, the marketing guys, and everybody that's pushing over there, they're not going to allow a bad Star Wars game to come out right before the movie comes out. And I think that, and also keep in mind, I think that they've been working on this game for quite a long time, and they've had more than enough time to iron out any issues that they have, and they continue to have more than enough time. I think if that Star Wars movie wasn't coming out, at the end of the year, that we would be getting this game a lot sooner and run the risk of having whatever issues. But when they announced that the movie was coming out, first comment I made was that the Star Wars Battlefront game is probably going to be pushed to whatever window that movie is in. The good thing about it was we didn't have a release date for Star Wars Battlefront at that point. We didn't even have a window. So they just drop it on in there. They can get it done and get it set up to how they need it to. When DICE picked up the game, it was already 90% done. I know that they had to probably change a good bit of assets to fit their mold, but this was a game that was already in development, and they picked it up to finish it. So I'm not too concerned about the issues.
You got something to add, Gary?
Yeah, as far as DICE, I feel like they get a bad rep because Battlefield 4, yeah, it was broken, but even while it was broken, it was still a fun game to play. Like, I still continuously played it, even when it was broken, and they were working hard to add fixes to the game frequently. It took them a few months to get it fully functional, but it was still a solid game. Not as good as Battlefield 3, but it was still solid. So I feel like people shouldn't be doubting DICE as much as they are, because Battlefield 3 was still one of the best FPS games that I ever played, like as far as military shooters go. So I definitely think they're capable of producing a great Star Wars Battlefront game. As far as Battlefront itself, I don't have much experience with Battlefront. I know that there's been games previously. As far as it being, mainly online game, I'm fine with that because, I'm a Battlefield player, so I assume that if I like Battlefield, I'm gonna like Battlefront. So that's my thought on it. I don't have much else to say.
Well, just to piggyback off of what you said, I know they said that this is not going to be a Battlefield type of port expansion, none of that. This is going to be a totally somewhat different experience. I believe we also know now it will be 60 frames per second for those that care about this type of stuff. Resolution to be determined. I would assume 1080p on consoles, but that's another topic that we'll get into later. But overall, I think you all made some excellent points. I would like to hope that the game is going to be great because of the fact that, yeah, it's coming out later this year, right next to the movie. That was a very smart decision to do that because they know that, that's money for both sides. So I like to hope that it will come out perfectly fine. If for any reason there was an issue, though, I do wonder if it will be, if they would delay it. But no, I mean, no, they can't now because of that announcement and the fact the movie is coming out. But perhaps we won't have to worry about any of that type of stuff. As I said, I think you all made some very valid points, so we could just sit back and hope for the best. But from what I saw yesterday, I was intrigued. Um,
And I actually think that shot with the X-wing from inside, I think that was actual like how the gameplay would be. Yeah, because they already said that you could seamlessly go from first person to third person. So I think that there were regular gameplay clips intermingled in that montage towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was actual gameplay. So yeah, there's supposed to be a 5-minute gameplay thing coming out. We still haven't heard anything about that, right?
Yeah, that's
I thought
a
it was
good
going to
question.
come out during the celebration, honestly.
Well, the celebration is going on now, or is that
It ends tomorrow, I think. It's
tomorrow?
the last day, I think.
Okay. I look forward to that footage. Yeah, I mean the game looks great. So we'll see how it turns out in the end. So we're going to move on to the next topic. This is a topic. Let me go ahead and say right now, I have not played any of the games in this series. So this is something that you guys will probably talk more prominently about. But basically, Star Ocean 5 was announced. It's coming to PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 3. So what are you guys' thoughts on this particular announcement, and are you looking forward to this game?
Oh, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I've still yet to beat a Star Ocean's game, to be honest with you. But I played Star Ocean on PS2. I can't remember the name.
Till the End of Time.
Subtitle. Yeah, that one. And I played The Last Hope on PS3. And both are great games. Like when it comes to JRPGs, Star Ocean is up there as like one of the best, IPs. And I also heard that there's a Ni no Kuni 2 in the works too. So I'm excited for JRPGs overall.
Yeah, we were definitely lacking in the JRPG arena for the longest time. Like I had mentioned before that I was going to get a Wii U because Xenoblade Chronicles X was going to be on there because I don't have JRPGs to play. But with this announcement, take my money is going to happen. I'm going to spend money on it. I didn't play Last Hope. It was kind of just I don't know what it was that came around that time, but I know I was distracted by a lot of things and I never went back to it. But I dropped a lot of hours into To the End of Time on the PS2. Oh my goodness! And the crazy thing, I started over in that game a ton of times because I went through like multiple memory cards, but it didn't even bother me. I was like, F it. I don't care if I got to go through these tutorial dungeons again. I'm going to play it and enjoy every moment from it. It actually makes me... I'll ask this because you guys are JRPG fans as well. Did y'all play Rogue Galaxy?
Not fully, no. I only briefly played it.
Gary?
No, I haven't played that one.
Man, y'all need to play it. Even now, you need to play it, and I would love for someone to pick up that franchise and bring it back. I didn't finish it, so I don't know if the ending has some kind of finality where the world ended and you never get another Rogue Galaxy. But that game was a lot of fun, and it reminded me a lot of Star Ocean and did some things similar to it and kind of had that scope as well. So I'm looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like Square Enix, they'll have room to add a lot more creativity to Star Ocean than they do Final Fantasy. Because with Final Fantasy, that's meant to be the game that, hooks the mass audience kind of thing. So it's a lot more controlled, in terms of development and stuff. But with Star Ocean, I feel like they can experiment more because it's for those people who are into hardcore JRPGs.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more they can do with it.
And it's going to be interesting seeing, like we've seen what Western RPGs can do in the new generation. We haven't seen what JRPGs can do. Like Dragon Age Inquisition, amazing. Witcher 3, like the scope of that game looks ridiculous. And we have a hint with Xenoblade Chronicles X, and it does look phenomenal, but I want more snapshots of what JRPGs can do with this new technology.
True.
Exactly.
I think also a good thing to keep in mind, and it shows from Square Enix specifically because they're the ones that have really been coming out with a lot of games lately. I mean, they seem to be kind of giving fans, or really more listening to their fans a little bit more so than they have within the last like couple of years. Because look, I mean, we're getting Bravely Second, which again, sequel to Bravely Default, which was a phenomenal JRPG. It's pretty much Final Fantasy V, in some respects. We're gonna get now Star Ocean, which I doubt pretty much anybody knew was coming at some point. It's a nice, neat little surprise. And then again, we're getting to see the blending of a lot of Western RPG principles with JRPG principles with Final Fantasy 15 eventually. I mean, this is gonna be a good time going into next year for the JRPG genre.
And then Kingdom Hearts 3.
And then Kingdom Hearts 3, look at that. I mean, look, there's a ton now coming out at this point. And even then, I'll throw in Type 0 into there because I feel Type 0 still is a JRPG at heart because it has a lot of its hardcore elements, even though it's more action-y than most others out there.
They still got to drop that cherry on top. Y'all know what I'm going to say. You know what they got to do. We all know what Square Enix has to do.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I disagree.
Why? Now, I'm not saying that they have to do it this year or next year because, as he just said, we have a long list of games to come, right? Square Enix was in trouble financially. The moves that they are making are putting them in a better position. But to get to
they got a much better setup now to make more money, especially once 15 comes out, and then eventually Kingdom Hearts 3. That's when you're going to see things really change.
Yeah, like they're in a better position. They're going in the right direction. They have a good forecast of games. Why? And the key is, he said, listening to the fans. How of all RPGs, like, is the Final Fantasy crowd not the most vocal when it comes as far as popularity?
Oh, but pretty much the Kingdom Hearts crowd will be the Final Fantasy crowd technically also. So yeah, I would say
and it's like you all right, Type 0. You got a smaller group, you're bringing a smaller group of fans, and you're bringing that game to a larger audience. Bam, that worked out well. You promoted 15, which, everybody was looking forward to that, and it's shaping up decently. It has its issues, but it's going to be, okay. You got Star Ocean, which is a niche thing. People didn't even, like, people wanted it. They may not have known they wanted it. Like, I didn't know I wanted it, but as soon as they announced it, they give me money. So that's another group of people right there. Then you're gonna get Kingdom Hearts 3 and the other games that he mentioned, because Bravely Default was a freaking hit, just outer ballpark. So Bravely Second, and then Kingdom Hearts 3, cherry on top, dog. Like, you don't even have to. It doesn't have to come out in the next 2 years. Give us more. Actually say, hey, we're in development.
To throw this in there, sorry to cut you off, but to kind of add on to that, they've actually been doing a lot of good stuff with Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn. A lot of great stuff that's been getting a lot of attention, and a total 180 from what that game was originally when it first released. I mean, look at all the new content that game's been coming out with.
And the expansion, I forgot the expansion for that. Yeah, Heaven's Ward or something like that.
Heaven's something. I know that it's like a really big thing involving dragoons.
Yeah. So,
Charles, did you even mention your point properly of what you wanted? Because I can't remember if you said it or not.
I didn't want to say the actual name. I just keep saying cherry on top. I'm not gonna say the name because I don't want to ruin it.
Oh man.
Okay, well I'm gonna state why I don't want that cherry on top because I just want that cherry to exist how it was, in history. I don't want to see. I don't want to see a new version of it.
Honestly, here's the thing. Like without getting much more into it, why would they do that if one, they'll never live up to the expectations? Hands down, they will set themselves up for such harsh criticism about that game and still make a ridiculous amount of money. Which economically, when you think about it, it's like, why wouldn't you? But I think that also, keep in mind, the teams over there at Square want to make their own games. They want to make their own original stuff, not piggyback so much on the backs of games that have been already given a legacy. Even though
we keep remastering everything.
Here's the thing.
We've got 2 remasters of 10.
What happened?
Yep.
We've got 2 remasters of Final Fantasy 10 and 10-2.
And that's true.
And we've got Final Fantasy 7 not remastered, but put onto every single console. But
that's different though.
You've got people gonna be bitching about a game that you hinted at and it's not coming with no money. or you could bitch at making the game, getting millions of dollars, and people not being okay with some of the changes you made.
That's the
I
thing. I
think
don't think
they'd
Square
rather
Enix
have
is
the
thinking like
millions.
that. I don't think they want to think like that. I think it's more creatively that they want to make their own original games and sell better than that. That's
Dude,
really where I think it's coming from.
they took the PlayStation event and went on stage and started playing the Final Fantasy
That's
theme
the thing.
from
I
Seven.
look at that as more as a statement from Square being like, listen, we heard you, but we're not going to do it. Like, you want Final Fantasy VII on PS4? Here you go. We're not going to remaster. We want to make Final Fantasy 15. We want to make 16 down the line. We want to make these original games that you guys buy. And if we sell more than FF7 back in the day, or get as much prestige like it, then we may consider it. Like, I think that was their bold statement to the fans.
And also, one last thing I want to say, like, they could single-handedly destroy the legacy of Final Fantasy VII if they remaster it and do a bad job.
Yeah, but do you think they would release it if it was a bad job? This isn't a game where they're gonna have like a crackpot team of people put it together and then not test it and then put it out and like, oh shit, we done fucked up. Like, the shit will be tested. Like, look how long Final Fantasy 15 has been in development now. Like,
But
I'm
that's
sure
my
that
point.
they-
That's an original game, though. That's completely different. Again, I think it's the creative team is the one with that mentality. It's like, why do we want to remaster a game like that from the ground up when we could put all those resources into making our game instead of somebody else's?
I'd like to make a quick statement. I have to side with Charles on this because I know Square Enix likes these remasters. I'm gonna tell you right now that Kingdom Hearts 2.5, 1.5, you will see that on PlayStation 4 because there's no way they can just release it for PlayStation 3, knowing the third one is gonna come out. Some people probably didn't get a chance to play it, but they want to play it on PlayStation 4. I guarantee you're gonna see that, and I also guarantee that you'll see Deus Ex getting remastered because the sequel, Human Divided was already announced. I'm pretty sure they're gonna want to put, the last Deus Ex game on PlayStation 4. So there's nothing to stop them from doing this with Final Fantasy VII or any of the other Final Fantasy games. Just like Charles said, they're releasing Final Fantasy X, 10-2 again.
There's a difference, though. There's a difference because those are remasters and we're talking a remake.
And they're also their relevance, too. Keep in mind, the reason why 2.5 would more than likely happen right now, or 1.5 and 2.5 together to come on PS4, is because Kingdom Hearts 3 is right down the line. Deus Ex is getting a brand new game, so that will get, obviously, remastered. Final Fantasy
what's the argument for 10?
Got it because they just came out not too long ago, and they're going to still put that off there because it's still so well. What's the point of remastering? Even though we know it's going to make a ridiculous amount of money, we're like, okay, if you want to print money, give us a remaster of Final Fantasy VII. But again, look at the time and effort and the resources that's going to go into making that remaster when they could easily at the same time still do that and give us a brand new story that's still that team's game. I think it's more the stubbornness of that team than it is the economics.
Wait, we need to use the correct terminology because remember, a remaster is just taking an old game and re-releasing it with higher quality, and remake is a completely new
remake. That's what everybody wants, but I don't think ever Square Enix is going to do it anytime soon.
Well,
yeah, and as for Final Fantasy X, they don't need a reason to remaster that. That's such a classic game that who doesn't want to play that again?
But then you sound like a hypocrite, though, when you say that.
But that's a remaster, though. I'm not talking remake. I wouldn't want them to remake 10. I just want them to remaster it so I can play it again and again.
Yeah, because you definitely bought it on PS3 and you bought it on PS4, which blows my mind.
Yep.
I bought it. I have it on Vita too. I mean, I'm gonna get the PS4 version, but I totally get where Gary's coming from though, because if you look at it from the terminology of remastering, that's fine because it doesn't take a lot of time and resources to do that. But if you want to remake something, that's a totally different conversation.
And my point.
I already understood what it would take for them to make it, and Dave said what it would make. That still doesn't change my desire for them to actually make it, because it's cool that we're getting newer games, but I'm also one of the people that hated the story in Final Fantasy 13. It was beautiful, but the story was crap. The characters weren't very memorable. And then Final Fantasy 15, hopefully they fix that kind of, but I don't know if that's going to be groundbreaking story-wise. It may be groundbreaking gameplay-wise. I kind of expect that from what I've seen so far. But I don't think we're going to get that same kind of quality story that we got back from 7 all the way, from 5 to 10. even 12. So that's my view on it.
So let me just say this real quick, and then I'll have any final words on this topic. One other thing to consider: if the fans really want this, I'm more than certain that Sony will work with Square Enix to make it happen, because they are already remaking Ratchet and Clank.
Mm-hmm.
So it is very possible. It's not totally impossible. It's very possible if the fans want it, they will find a way to make it happen.
And why not crowdfund the shit at this point?
Yeah.
Because it would make the money probably a few times over.
That's a really good question. Like I said, I think it's more the stubbornness of the team than the economics. Because if it was really about the money, they would have already been playing this out and been already making the steps halfway done to make this happen. It's clearly not about the money.
Well, I think it is, and we just don't know it because they're keeping it quiet.
So, any final word on this topic, Gary?
Yeah, I mean, my final thought is, I just, if I'm gonna replay these games again, I want them to exist exactly the way they did when I first played them, because it's like nostalgia. Like I feel those same feelings and emotions when I play it again. But a remake of the game could be completely different. So yeah, that's just my final thought on it.
All right, so we're gonna move on, but for those that are watching or listening to this podcast, feel free to leave your thoughts on this in the comments section below. The next topic, from one announcement to another, we finally got the official announcement for Guitar Hero Live via a presentation reveal that they had earlier this week. So I just want to get you guys' thoughts on this. Were you disappointed with the new direction they are going? The fact that there will not be any compatibility with older instruments from other games? And just, what do you think about this in general?
I think they're shooting themselves in the foot with the backwards compatibility thing, because Rock Band has kind of come out and said that they're trying to make that a priority, not only with the instruments but with the music as well. It also makes me feel like this is more of a reactionary thing compared to, Rock Band has been working on this for a while, or that group, Harmonix, right?
Yeah.
They've been working on it for a while and kept it quiet and then announced it, and you kind of see that in the whole backwards compatibility thing and everything. And then now we suddenly get Guitar Hero, and it doesn't have that. And apparently the guitar, what is it, 3 things on the top and the bottom, right? As opposed to 5 now?
Yeah, it's basically 3 pairs of buttons. So instead of it laying out 5 buttons on the actual fretboard, you got 2, 2, and 2 right at the top.
Okay. That's all fine and dandy. I understand. Business-wise, it's smart because, honestly, the music genre was a cash cow. And it's kind of sad that it stopped for that, amount of time, because that's a social experience that you can keep doing DLC for, and it actually makes sense. But I don't feel like they put enough effort behind this new version, and I think Rock Band is gonna drown them out.
I'm of the same mindset. I agree with Charles, because I think not only was it reactionary, but clearly they're not looking at this the same way as what Harmonix is. Harmonix not only kept the original design of their guitars and had the backwards compatibility, because they know that not only that's a kind of like a thing, or kind of like something associated with the music genre that's stuck with people for already all these years that have grown up with Guitar Hero, that have grown up with Rock Band, since those games have come out. But also, I feel that the whole DLC thing with the songs, people obviously invested a lot of money with those songs, especially in Rock Band, and definitely Guitar Hero. I want to say around Guitar Hero 2 and 3, all those songs from back throughout all those games, and then just taking that away from people just for the sake of it being fresh and new. Like, pretty much the same idea as, getting a new toy set where you can't use your old toys within the same set. A lot of people are going to be turned off by that and could be completely, upset because they won't be able to play their favorite songs, which they've already spent money on. Pretty much Activision is asking you to double dip again. like that, and I think that's going to rub people the wrong way. As far as the new guitar design, again, I feel that's a design that people have grown up with. People associate that 5-button layout on the fretboard with Guitar Hero, and in addition to it being color-coded, because I think that the new layout on the tracks, I don't like that. I really don't like the way how it kind of looks, where I'm not seeing the colored buttons come down, so I can't associate that with a finger that I have on the fretboard. So I'm just going to see just a particular note come down, and I'm going to have to think, okay, if it's all the way on the left side, it's associated with my index finger, or etc. It reminds me a little bit of a PC game called Frets on Fire, which came out the same time as Guitar Hero. But again, I feel that they're just for the sake of being new, they're just changing stuff up, not even taking into account of how the actual players and how the fans are going to react to this. Because, and also keep in mind, that whole aesthetic with the first-person view of, like, you know, people's reactions and stuff, as opposed to the more stylized, cartoony take that Guitar Hero's had for, like, the longest, I feel, again, that's going to work against them, too, because that first-person view isn't going to be like that with all the songs. They even came out and said that it's only going to be for a select few. So it's like, okay, it's either you're all in, or you're not. And I just feel like they're kind of, you know, confused and just kind of like all over the place with that. I really feel they should have just stuck with the stylized look, because clearly Rock Band has, even though they don't look that much more similar to the Guitar Hero avatars or the little characters what they had, they still have their own look and feel and such, but I still think they really would have been better off going with the cartoony style, over the top, you know, aesthetic that they had for pretty much the last, like, 4 games, I guess you could say, if not all of them.
You have anything to say, Gary? Because I do have something to say after you're done.
I don't have much to say about Guitar Hero because I don't really play it, and the only time I have played it is at Eurogamer, and it's it's fun. It's a fun game. I see the fun behind it, but like I'm not into that type of stuff. But as for the backwards compatibility, I can see how that would be frustrating for a lot of people. But I can see why they chose to do that, because, you know, they want to kind of reinvent it and make it fresh for the new generation. But that's the only stance I have on it.
All right. Well, what I have to say is I agree with a lot of the points that have already been made on this. I do believe that while I understand that this is a new direction, a new stance, I personally don't really care about that. The way it looks in terms of having that live action video, I'm not a fan of that decision either, because I know that there have been some games in the past that tried to implement that throughout each generation. It's not really something that is too successful, at least from what I have seen in the past. So I'm not really sure if I'm sold on that. The backwards compatibility is an issue. That is a significant issue, especially when you know your competitor has already said that they are going to try and make that a #1 priority. So, yeah, I mean, there will still be some that will still buy this game because maybe they like what it has to offer. I mean, I do understand that you can actually, I believe, play test the game. And they did say there's a couple of Best Buy locations that allow you to play it, but it's specific. But again, I'm not completely sold on it. I mean, I know some people on the site are sold on it. Anthony Nash, our news writer, he was able to experience it along with Tony Polanco. They enjoyed it. So like I said, it's for those type. Some people like it, others don't. I'm one of the people who I could care less about this game because there's going to be a lot of other games that are coming out this fall I'm going to want. And this is definitely not one of those games. But with that said, I do wish them the best. There will be a lot of people that will be into it because they'll feel like it's a new experience. But for me, nah, son, I'm going to have to pass on that one. But any final thoughts on this before we move on to our next topic?
Also, keep in mind, to jump into this, that's another $100 on top of that to get the new guitar and the game. Mm-hmm. Look at Rock Band, which Rock Band is offering you, I think, the game alone just for the standard normal price, as well as all these other bundles and other stuff for which you have. You have more options with Rock Band than I feel you do with Guitar Hero, obviously. So people are going to look at that. People are going to obviously, take that into account.
Oh, yeah. It has to be taken into account, without question. So, any final word, Charles? You all set?
Quick note: I feel like that live thing that they're doing takes away from the social aspect of the game, where you're focusing more on fake people on screen as opposed to the people that you're like playing with. But that's just me. But that's all I have to say about it.
I can see that. I definitely see that. I agree with that. Um, yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how it does. Pretty sure you guys will get to see it at E3, and then you can let us know if we were wrong and what we thought. But moving on, this isn't a topic that's on the list. I figured I wanted to talk about this real briefly, and I'm pretty sure you probably had something to say about this, Jake. But of course, I believe that it is rumored that Ryu and Roy are going to appear in Smash Brothers as DLC. So, do you want to tell us real briefly, Jake, about this news or how it came out? So on
Yeah, sure. Basically, if you didn't already hear, there was the update that I mentioned earlier in the podcast about Smash Brothers that came to 3DS and the Wii U, which basically was an update that not only provided stuff for the DLC shop, the eShop stuff for the game on the main menu, but also provided a lot of the balance changes as well as other modifications to kind of compensate for Mewtwo coming in as a playable character, and also the Mii outfits, the custom Mii outfits for the fighters stuff. They have a lot of stuff involving Mega Man X, Proto Man, some Pokemon stuff, as well as a couple other things in there. But some of the significant news to come out of it is that some guys, one particular Reddit user, actually got into the code of the actual update and found a couple interesting files in there that were sound files. So he not only found sound files for Mewtwo, he also found sound files for Lucas. But the most interesting and most noteworthy was that he found sound files, both the victory theme and also the stage themes for Roy from Fire Emblem, which is a kind of a variation of the ones that are in the game now for Lucina, Marth, and Robin. But also he found the victory theme and the stage theme for Ryu from Street Fighter II specifically, meaning that the Super Street Fighter II theme for when you win a match or you pretty much finish off a match, you have that victory theme for the win screen, the victory screen, but also his Street Fighter II stage, almost exactly to how it is from Street Fighter II. Now, at first glance, some people thought this was a joke, some people thought it was fake, but obviously the things to take into account is not only it came directly from the code that's on the 3DS, people haven't been able to actually check the Wii U version yet, or haven't been able to kind of break into that and actually explore the files and such, but also Smash Brothers has retro themes. They have retro music themes here and there for pretty much the entire cast, I think it is. I haven't gone through all of them, but they're in there. So this would come as no surprise that they would have any sort of retro theme in there for any of the characters. But the other couple things to keep in mind is that why isn't this kind of remixed? Because especially if they already have another Capcom character in there being Mega Man and such, because the Lucas theme for Fire Emblem or Mother 3 has been remixed, and also the other stuff for Mewtwo and and for Roy, even though again Roy hasn't been confirmed as a character at all. But it's interesting to see more new guest characters, and I really think this is probably has to do with them being able to get Mega Man into the game. I guess Capcom was like, okay, you could have Mega Man in Smash Bros. If you also at some point represent our Street Fighter franchise. I would not be surprised if that was the case at some point. But it raises more questions than it does answers, and obviously Capcom and Nintendo haven't made any comment. So hopefully by E3, if not down the line, we get some more clarification. Keep in mind, Lucas is supposed to come down the line as another DLC character for Smash Brothers, so we'll know eventually.
Yeah, I particularly think that this is going to definitely be an announcement that they make at the Nintendo Direct that's right around E3, if it does happen, because I can't think of a bigger stage or a more important time for them to make that announcement. I agree with a lot of what you said. I think it will be a smart move for them to do this. Especially you have a popular character like Ryu in the game. That's pretty big deal for them.
I honestly don't want Ryu, to be honest with you. There's other characters that I think are third party that kind of deserve a little bit much more the spotlight or the actual spot in the roster. If you look at the actual ballot that the Smash Brothers had, or Nintendo had, for who should be the next character in Smash Brothers as far as third party, you have characters like Shovel Knight in there that are on the top of the list. You have Travis Touchdown from No More Heroes. You have Bayonetta. You have all these other characters that I feel a little bit much more relevant to the Nintendo brand, besides something like Ryu from Street Fighter. Even though Super Street Fighter 2 was a big thing on Super Nintendo. That's just fact. And again, I feel like there are better choices right now. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if this happens.
No, I'm pretty sure it probably will happen. No doubt about that. We'll have to see how it goes. But overall, yeah. Any other thoughts on this before we move on to the big topic? All right, we're good. So now, ladies and gentlemen, if I may get into the next topic, which is the main topic for today's show. You know that the March NPD numbers dropped, both the software and hardware. Let's get into the hardware first. PlayStation 4 is the top-selling console of the month. Now, going by the numbers which I'm looking at right now, we have PlayStation 4 as the #1 platform, 3DS number 2 with 260 to 270K sold, and then we have the Wii U, 80 to 85K sold. On this list as well is the Xbox, which also said that they sold well, but they didn't provide numbers. So neither Sony or Microsoft provided numbers this time around, whereas last month they did provide, at least Microsoft provided numbers and Sony didn't. So now, first and foremost, let me say this. Congrats to Sony and the PlayStation 4. They had an exceptional month, thanks to games like Bloodborne, MLB The Show, two major important titles that are only on the PlayStation 4. So they deserve props for that. But I want to get what everybody thinks about the hardware stuff. We are going to get into the software, but first about the hardware. Are we surprised that Sony is #1 yet again? Because I'm definitely not.
I'm not surprised because they had Bloodborne, and Bloodborne is definitely a quality title, and it's exclusive. So yeah, I'm not surprised that they won this month. I expected them to. So yeah, what about you guys?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, with the way things are going, even without those two particular titles coming out this particular month, I don't think I would have been surprised anyway. But yeah, Bloodborne and MLB The Show coming out probably definitely pushed it. It's interesting that we don't get the numbers for both of these consoles, but I think they both do it because it feeds the hype, basically. Not having those exact numbers, because you're gonna have people that are like, oh, Sony's not revealing the numbers because the gap is closing, and then other people are going to be like, oh, they're not, Microsoft's not showing the numbers because the gap is widening or whatever. But regardless of what way it actually is going, it might not be moving at all, but it feeds the hype. And, it gives people energy, it makes them excited. Some people go a little bit over the top, but it's all for the better. But it's going to be interesting to see if this flips towards the end of the year. Because Microsoft, if they have a desire to catch up, they need it to flip for more than just, November, December, and January. Those are big months, but you need to maintain some kind of energy into the next year. So maybe they'll make some kind of big move right around E3 that'll kind of make it where they get the entire last portion of the year, which would be the last half, which would be very interesting and very good for them. But yeah, it's good. It's good. It's annoying that freaking NBA 2K15 is still in the top 10. Like, I do not understand that. Like, who is still buying? Like, are people rage quitting and buying it over and over and over again? It's crazy that's still there. And I'm also not surprised that Battlefield Hardline is #1.
Oh, don't worry. I got something to say about that.
I know.
You have anything to add, Mr. Jakejames?
Honestly, no. But I think pretty much everything that needs to be said was already said about it. I mean, I'm not too keen on MPD numbers and such. I understand their importance, but they're not a super huge important thing to me. I mean, granted, we had a couple games already this month that were really talked about heavily, amongst all over the place. Bloodborne being the biggest one in my opinion, anyway. So I'm not surprised that it was the top-selling console this month.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with regards to the software, because Charles brought up the software, I'm just glad to see Type 0 up there. And I know people bought it for the demo, for the Final
but
Fantasy
still,
15 demo, but still, it's great to see it up there.
Oh
But
yeah,
but
definitely.
again, I asked you the question: would it be there if that Final Fantasy 15 demo wasn't
And I
available?
would say no because I
I
think
doubt it.
everybody was hyped up for specifically the 15 demo, and I think that if it was just Type Zero alone, that game would have been dismissed because everybody was rubbed so bad by Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns that they would have skipped over it. And it's
But
a
you know
shame because that
what's
game is
good
actually
about
pretty
it?
damn decent. The what is
Yeah.
it, Type Zero? It's actually pretty damn good.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's good about it because those people who only bought it for the demo, they still have an entire game there that they need to
Exactly.
play if they want to justify the purchase. They have to play it. So it's good that it gets people into a
Yeah.
game that would have been otherwise ignored.
Definitely. So since you guys already brought it up, I'm going to say real quickly, this is what the software, the top 10 games were. Number one, Battlefield Hardline. Um, Number two was Bloodborne. Number three was Grand Theft Auto 5. Number four was Mario Party 10. Number five was Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. Number six, MLB 15 The Show. Number seven, Minecraft. Number eight, NBA 2K15. Number nine, Borderlands The Handsome Collection. And number 10, Final Fantasy Type 0 HD. Now, first and foremost, let me get to Battlefield because that was number one. All right. Top selling on Xbox, then PlayStation 4, then 360, then PS3, and then finally PC. Now, this was a little bit of a surprise, not so much because it's Battlefield. I knew the game was going to sell well. I didn't expect the game to sell well on the Xbox. I know that the Xbox is primarily a, they always say it is great for shooters. Or at least that's what we know of from last gen. But the concern here is this. DICE came out, or EA came out and said this game is going to be, it's not going to be 1080p on consoles. It's going to be 900p on PlayStation 4 and 720p on Xbox. So the fact that it was the top selling on Xbox leads me to feel as though, well, this just proves that resolution doesn't matter. I know that there are a lot of people that always leave comments, talk about, oh, this game is going to be 1080p, 60 frames per second. And now this is a perfect example where that doesn't even matter. It's about the game, about the gameplay experience.
I think it's also about the online experience for some games. I think that whole resolution thing only applies to certain games because if you look at Type Zero, I'm pretty sure like if you were to go to look at the numbers of Type Zero and a few others, you would look at it as like, oh, PlayStation 4 was the more dominating version that people bought that game for on their console preference of choice like that. You're going to see it with other games like when Metal Gear Solid 5 drops, a lot of people are going to get that on PlayStation 4. Or when, for example, I'm pretty sure maybe at some point, another first-person shooter will drop, or like Call of Duty, when that game eventually comes out, you'll see more people grab it on Xbox One, etc. I think it's different for every single release, especially the bigger AAA releases.
This is true. And just to add one last thing, I mean, of all the other games on that list, the top selling game was on PlayStation 4. So that's why I thought that was interesting. That's why that stood out. That okay, Battlefield, Xbox One, that's interesting. But what do you guys have any other thoughts on this particular the list in general, or anything pertaining to what I just mentioned?
Yeah, when it comes to the whole resolution thing, resolution shouldn't matter to console gamers. Um, for PC gamers, it matters because you're able to change your settings, like your resolution, and you're able to configure a lot of that stuff. So it matters to a PC gamer. But when it comes to consoles, a lot of the time you can't really tell the difference, and because one game has a higher resolution than the other, it doesn't mean that that game performs better. But I think the FPS, frames per second, that's a bigger issue than the resolution. Like if the frames per second is all messed up on one version, then that will actually affect the gameplay. But as far as resolution, that has no bearing on one game being better than the other on the other system.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my thoughts on that. As for the list, I actually think that's a great list, that MPD list, because it shows that people are playing lots of different things. It's not just the same games over and over. Like I know NBA's there, Grand Theft Auto's there, Call of Duty's there, but there's also stuff like Bloodborne and usually you wouldn't really see a game like that up so high. I mean, it was number 2, so that's great to see. And of course, I mentioned Type Zero already. They had Borderlands in there, so that I think that's a great mix of games in that list. So I'm proud of that as a gamer.
Yeah, I have something to add, but how about you go first, Charles, if you have anything.
I don't really have anything else to add. I kind of agree with Gary was saying as far as a diverse palette of games for people to be playing and what they're purchasing and everything. So yeah, I don't have too much to add on top of that.
Cool. All right. Well, let me just say this. Once again, Bloodborne number 2. That's a very good thing. I mean, I knew that game, it was going to be a game that was going to get a lot of attention from software and a huge title for Sony. So definitely glad to see that chart, as well as MLB 15 to show. I mean, this is the only baseball game that really, they're baseball exclusive, so it's a very big deal. So they deserve congrats on that. Now, I did want to say one thing in regards to the Borderlands Handsome Collection. Okay, for those who don't know, 2K Australia shut down this week. Now, they worked on Borderlands the pre-sequel. I'm a little confused because I thought the game sold well, or I figured that this collection was basically to assure that 2K made more money back off of it. But I mean, I'm glad to see that the game charted, but that sucks about the 2K Australia because I figured Borderlands is a popular franchise. I mean, I don't know if the pre-sequel was any good because I didn't buy it personally, but just think it's unfortunate that the company had to shut down. I don't know. But one thing I did want to say, the last thing I did want to say, I know that there was some comments that was left on this MPD post when we put it on the site. It made light of the fact that Microsoft wasn't on the list as far as none of their exclusives were on the list. 2 games in particular, Scream Ride, which came out on the PC as well, and I believe the Xbox 360. And you have another game, Ori and the Blind Forest, which also came out on PC, did not chart, even though the game made enough money to turn a profit.
Damn shame too. To me, that's one of my best games this year, honestly.
Well, yeah. I mean, I agree. It's definitely a game that it looks great, captivating. But I mean, like I said, a lot of people will think because it didn't chart, it wasn't successful. I just want to say that does not mean that at all. Now, Scream Ride, again, this is not I believe it has to do with the popularity of the game, whether or not the game is actually going to be good. This is for the same reason that Charles said earlier. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, later on this year for Microsoft. You already know a game like Halo 5 is a big name game, so I would expect to see that on the list for that reason. But it just seems like the major titles that have a lot of popularity, so on and so forth, those are the ones that are going to chart. So that's why I'm not surprised that Scream Ride wasn't on this list, and that's not really an excellent game. I mean, you know yourself, Jake, because you played it.
Yeah,
like I played
didn't like it. I honestly did not like it at all.
Yeah, and then Ori the Blind Forest, another great game, but I don't really know if Microsoft did a good job marketing this game or getting it out there to remind people it was coming. I know at one point it was delayed into this year, but I don't really think they do a good job of really marketing the indie titles the way they need to market them to get the attention to it. But that's another topic for another discussion. But yeah, that was some things I wanted to say about it. I don't know if you guys had any other closing statements to say in regards to this topic.
I'm good.
All right, we're good. So, I mean, that pretty much is the list of topics we were going to talk about on this particular episode. I don't know if you guys had any final words you wanted to say, any shout-outs. You can feel free to go. I guess you can go first, Gary.
Yeah, shouts to Keith Hennessy at Turtle Beach. He's been sending me a lot of Turtle Beach products to review. If you go on the site right now, you can see I've got a review of the Impact 700 keyboard and the Grip 500 mouse. Those are great products. I'm using them right now. And so definitely check them out if you're a PC gamer. And shouts to all the listeners, Corey, Dylan, Other Zinc, Seth, all those guys that comment every week without fail. Michael, all you guys. Whether the comments are good or bad, it's always entertaining to engage with, the audience and everything. So shouts to all those guys. And I can't think of anything else right now, but if I do, I'll mention it. So you guys go ahead.
Yeah. How about you, Charles? Any shout-outs?
I'll throw a couple names he forgot to mention, like Final Stage Boss and Fern Gully, both of them as well. Were names that stood out to me as far as people that comment. We greatly appreciate it. It's cool to have
friends, right?
Those are not my friends. I don't know them personally.
I'm just messing with you because I know one of those guys. They said you shut me up or something. I can't remember the comment.
It was actually more than one person that said that, Gary. It was a few people, man. I think a couple people you named, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, well, shouts to all of them. I respect everyone's opinion. So that's
more. It's definitely calmed down significantly to a degree as far as getting heated down there. But we greatly appreciate it. And if y'all are into hip hop, check out the Knights of the Turntable podcast. Don't forget the other shows. We got the Throwdown. We got Nerd Knots, Baby in the Beard. Also, when you watch these shows, be sure to hit the I annotation in the top right if you're watching it on YouTube after we record it, because we have donations if y'all want to support us and keep us going, because we do this for the love and the joy of it as far as hip-hop and gaming and all that stuff.
Definitely.
How about you, Mr. Jakejames?
Not much. I guess just thanks for everybody listening to the show. Thanks for everybody commenting, checking out all the stories, the editorials, all the news and stuff that we all put out there for you guys. We keep doing this for you, and you keep checking it out. We'll keep bringing you some more good content. Got some even greater content coming down the line, because there's more good games coming down the line. So a lot of fun stuff. I can't wait to get into the rest of this year.
Yeah. And I just want to, once again, I want to give a shout out, a special thanks to all the fans that continue to support. Seth, Fern Gully enjoyed his comment. Corey enjoyed your feedback. Pretty much all of you guys. Damian, Others Inc., everybody who leaves a comment, we appreciate you taking the time to leave a comment. As Charles said, you guys are free to donate. That is in no way mandatory. Again, that's optional in the event that you guys want to, because again, we just do this stuff for the passion and basically just to, express our thoughts on games, hip hop, etc. So definitely feel free to check out the Throwdown. Throw down your questions tomorrow night. Feel free to check out Nerd Knots. That's Stephanie's new podcast. Definitely worth listening to. Knights of the Turntable. We just recorded a show last night. Very fun. We're going to continue to have fun on that show.
Boy, that was a nutty show there.
Yes, it was. It was definitely something you guys should check out. You may be surprised at what you see. And Baby in the Beard, once again, they talk about comics. They're going to have a lot to say about what went down this week. So, yeah, we just wanted to thank you guys for taking the time to visit the site, support the shows. We will continue bringing you more great content. A lot of surprises planned for next month. I'm not going to talk about it yet. Maybe I'll mention it next week. But until then, hope you guys enjoy gaming. Have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Later, peoples.
Adios.
Peace.